Here's the Packet Pushers team.
Packet Pushers.
It's not too often the four of us get together, but
once a year.
Yeah, once a year. The Packet Pushers team meeting, and this is what podcasting does to you. Here's to everybody on YouTube. Cheers.
Cheers.
So, I'm at Interop in Las Vegas, and sorry for the dark lighting here. It's kind of unusual, but when I come to Vegas, I don't really come to party. I come to work, and to be at the Interop and stuff like that. So I tend to end up staying in hotel rooms because I say, could you just put me close to the floor? So now I end up with a view that looks like this. So not exactly glamorous Las Vegas, but more like air conditioners above the building. So yesterday, last 2 days, we've been presenting the Packet Pushers Future of Networking Conference. That's our summit within, or a conference within a conference. Kind of like the idea that we have for being at Interop is to be able to present our 2 days of a conference inside of the overall Interop. And Ethan and I stood up and banged on about what we wanted to talk about, and it went really well. I think we had like 120 people in the first morning, and we actually filled the room. The chairs were laid out in such a way that they would have these round tables and put them out. Anyway, the room filled up, and we were really just like so excited, because when you speak at these events, when you're employed by a big company, and if you're like from a big vendor and you've got a big name behind you and you go and speak, it's kind of like you've got this big brother over your shoulder that knows who you are, and you can sort of be representing them, and you've got them to give you credibility. And when we stand up as Packet Pushers, so when Ethan and I get on stage, it's just us. Right, it's the Packet Pushers. It's just us. There's no big van. We're not part of a company that employs tens of thousands of people. We're just standing up and saying the things that we want. So we find that a bit frightening. So it's not a bad thing. It's just like it's daunting. It's not something that comes naturally to those of you who do it. So when you get up on stage and you're thinking, people are going to turn up, and there's so many other really good sessions at the conference, and maybe they're going to go to those other ones. So when you stand up that first morning and look out into the room, and it's full of people who, decided to come to your conference, it's kind of a really cool thing. And so overall, the presentations, I think they went okay. I like to present in a fairly unique style. My presentation style's pretty unique. Ethan just says, "You're you, Greg," which is pretty odd, but it is what it is. And I sort of present this because Interop's not video recorded and not streamed out on YouTube. You have to come, but there's a good part to that, which is when I'm recording this stuff, when I'm talking, I can actually say things that I might not otherwise talk about, because once it's recorded and it goes on the internet, other people can see it, and then other people can misinterpret it. And some of the stuff that when I do this presentation here, I'm very provocative. I want to provoke. I want to engage. I want to force people to think about things differently. And so often I use terminology or language which I would never use on the podcast, because there's really only 150 people in the room, and if I'm really upsetting them, I'm going to see it on their faces. And then if I've said something wrong, people can call me out on it. And in a smaller setting, I can do that. In the podcast, I can't. So there are many roles about which you're talking. So just that whole process of standing up in front of an audience and speaking, and now that that's behind me, I was all fired up to do these videos over the last couple of days and record bits and snatches and people, but really just the energy it takes to stand up on stage and speak for I think nearly 6 or 7 hours across the 2 days is that of content that you write from scratch. So you literally start with a keynote, or in my case, Apple Keynote, and think about what you want to tell people about, and then to do that. So I want to thank everybody who came to the Future of Networking, to those 2 days, because I think it's been a huge success. We'll find out if it was a success when they give us the reviews. When the sessions, if you've ever been to a conference, they always keep asking you to fill out a survey and see if the sessions, that literally determines whether the speaker will come back. So I'm not a huge fan of surveys. Honestly, I'm tired of being asked to do surveys. It's just this endless slog. Everybody wants you to ask surveys, but that actually, you've got no idea how important it is to a speaker to get those surveys back and know that you did okay. And if you're like me and you get invited to come and then you speak, if you're going to get good grades, you won't get to come back, because there's no big daddy over your shoulder making sure they force you back onto the roster. So thanks to everybody who came to Packet Pushers Future of Networking at Interop Las Vegas in 2017. It was good to see you. Now I'm just getting prepped up for the day. This is now the first day of the main conference. It's Wednesday. I've got a whole bunch of vendor briefings. I've got my shirt, my tie, and everything, and I've got to get ready to go to work. So one of the most heartless things they do at conferences is make you walk past the beach lagoons and the fun things that you could be doing if you weren't actually in a conference. Is it just me?
Everything is a basketball fan. This is what podcasting success looks like.
Well, I'm back from Vegas. Feature or bug, who knows? Caught the lurgy somewhere along the line, but I'm home. It was a good conference, Interop 2017. It's a conference in transition, so for a lot of people who went, they sort of said it was a bit small. There wasn't very many people there. But like any Interop conference that I've done over the years, it's a really different, it's unique in the sense that there's not a lot of young people there. So when you go to Cisco Live or VMworld, there's a lot of people under 30 sort of running around, and they have a big energy, they carry a lot of excitement, and a lot of them are there because they've done a good job, and it's kind of a holiday for most of them. Whereas when you go to independent conferences like Interop, or everybody sort of, they kind of all had a bit of a belly like me, and they've all been around in the industry for like 20 or 30 years, and I really didn't find too many people that weren't, CIO, CTO, senior architect, and they were genuinely looking for ideas. Now, speaking to vendors, and I did meet with a lot of vendors during 2017, there was some really interesting feedback from some of those about, the conference didn't seem to have things, there wasn't very many people, wasn't a lot of people walking past on the show floor. But you know what? When I asked them about how much leads and how many opportunities there was for vendors in Interop, what they were saying was there was plenty of it. The leads were pretty good. They won't know until they go back and follow them up. But it looks like the quality of the people that were in Interop from a vendor point of view was pretty good. So the people who were there were serious. They fronted up. They weren't wasting anybody's time. They weren't just grabbing free tchotchkes. In fact, the vendors were having troubles giving the free stuff away, which is great because most people get the free stuff and then just chuck it in the bin when they get home. Wish they hadn't picked it up. I know I don't take any of it, but that's, maybe I'm weird or something or whatever. Also from the sessions, I didn't get to any sessions myself, unfortunately. Of course, I was speaking. The packet pushers did their 2 days. That went really well. Got lots of feedback in the corridors. So lots of people coming up to us in the corridors and saying hi and telling us how much they enjoyed it. So it'll be interesting to see how the surveys come back, because, we live and die by the surveys. But that's going to be it. So I thought our sessions went pretty well. But hearing from what other people said, I think most of the other sessions were excellent. People sort of gave us good feedback around, and I noticed nobody was walking around in the corridors. So one of the ways
that conferences, I measure conferences as if you're walking around and people are moving around between while the sessions are actually in. Whereas at Interop, it was just dead quiet. That means everybody's in the sessions, or they're in the hall, or they're in the bar. Could be either. You know, it's Las Vegas. They always have a lot of bars and there's a lot of distractions. But what I felt was that people were actually genuinely sitting in the sessions because they were getting something from it. I didn't hear too many complaints. You know, it's any independent conference, it's possible to get somebody who's not too great. And that's always a risk, you know, when you've got the vendors compared to vendor conferences who actually have a huge pools of people to speak who are trained and they know what they're talking about, whereas independent conferences do face a greater risk when it comes to content. But pretty much it sounded great. Well, so I'm continuing to be positive about Interop. I can recommend it to you, and Interop 2017 was just great for me. It was great to meet so many of you. For all the people, you know, there was like 150 of you, I think, that sort of came in from the conference for the Packet Pushers Future of Networking, which is really exciting. Big shout out to those. And yeah, I'm going to wrap this video here because it's time to get it published. But I'm going to try and put some more videos together in the near future. Thanks.